Dyer again, and our next guest, author of such books as Your Erroneous Zones and The Sky's the Limit, believes that science and technology have brought us forward into a grand new world with greater possibilities than ever before. And that in many ways our attitudes and feelings have not evolved equally. His first novel, Gifts from Icus, which is seen here, delves into the image of the world as one, Dr. Wayne Dyer, who lives in Hawaii now.
Occasionally. In Florida. Yeah, Fort Lauderdale,
Florida.
actually. Yeah.
And he was a doctor of psychology.
Yeah, Frisbee.
Doctor of Frisbee.
And then psychology.
And then he wrote a book, made all kind of money, threw away his socks.
That's right. Never liked them in the first place.
Oh, no tie, you know.
I haven't had a tie on since 1973. Not
You're
on.
kidding.
Not on.
You just don't. Was there one thing you wanted to get rid of?
Well, I was kind of a fugitive when I was a little kid, and I figure anything that they tie around your neck, so I pull away from those kind of things. I just don't like them. I don't wear them.
Well, it's nice to be in a position now you don't have to wear them.
Yeah, I don't think I ever had to. I just thought I had to.
Yeah, you had to look the image.
Yeah, but I don't do that anymore.
So when you work as a psychologist, right, people expect you to have that. You should be wearing the suit that I have on.
I think so, but I'm not a psychologist. I don't think of myself like that at all. I think of myself as a novelist. Me and Leo Tolstoy. Or a philosopher. I really think of myself like that. I don't... any of those appearances, I figure that anybody who is more concerned with how I look than what I have to say isn't someone I want to really be concerned about anyway, as far as being in my personal life.
That's good.
Really.
The book, Your Erroneous Zone, was in '76.
Yes.
And has sold how many?
Around the world, 22 million, I'm told. It's big, I know that. It's large. And it was one of the biggest selling books of the last 20 years in this country.
I guess anybody who writes a book, of course, wants it to be a bestseller, but were you surprised?
I was shocked. I had written 3 books before that, had never made any money, never decided to write because to get famous or to get on a bestseller list. I wrote because I enjoyed writing. We were talking off the air earlier about giving things away and having things come to you and not chasing things all the time. And there's a philosophy that Thoreau presented to me when I was a young man in one of his essays about success, and I've always used it, and it's always made sense to me. He said, if you advance confidently in the direction of your own dreams and endeavor to live the life which you have imagined, you will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. It's always worked for me.
That's again, back when we were talking off the air, you said that it's always just come to you, and you're very happy. Well, of course, you'd be happy with it, but very fortunate that it comes like that.
It's one of the ironies, Bill. It's like you see people looking for love. If you chase love, you'll never find it. Love will hit you right over the head when you're not expecting it at all. If you're looking for it, you see all these people going to singles bars and trying to find the right thing and wear the right thing, and if I got the right Alliance night for tonight, and I've got the right labels on, and as long as you're doing that, looking for it, you never seem to get it. And yet, the people that I love and have loved the most of them, I've met when I'm out running or when I'm playing tennis or when I'm doing something, the least thought was love was going to come into my life. If you get out there and just do what makes sense to you, feel purposeful in what you're doing and excited about it, then success will chase you in whatever amount you need it. I really believe that. In terms of money, it's the same way. People who chase money never seem to get enough of it, you know. Even if they get $1 million, they want 2. You know,
sure.
They suffer from more, that disease.
So you're not one that goes out after it like that, but it just, as you said, just comes to you.
I try not to think of those things, because if you do, you become consumed by them, and that's all you ever think about. You ever notice that people who worry about money, that's all they ever talk about? How much does it cost? What's the price? What is it? You know, and that becomes their whole life. And there's no quality in their life. There's only size, appearance. There's no fulfillment in that.
The book that you have now, Gifts from Icus, it is dedicated to John Lennon.
Yes.
You were a fan of his.
Not really. I was a fan of that wonderful song, Imagine. I am a fan of anybody who is out there doing. I love all doers. I wasn't a Beatles fan by any means when I was a young man. I was working on my doctorate in those years and I thought a Beatle was something that got in the pool. You know, I wasn't too concerned about that. But Imagine, the wonderful song, Imagine that the world could be as one, is really the theme of what this book is. And it was, I remember how much his death touched me, and I cried that night. The notion of a world that could be as one is what I really wanted to write in a parable, and that's what I've done with this.
And this is the novel, of course,
Yes.
but do you think it is realistic?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think so. I think we're moving more in that direction. There was a time when I thought we were moving in the wrong direction. There's still too much emphasis on divisions, like the us versus you, men versus women, Arabs versus Jews, black versus white, all of these kinds of things. We need to see ourselves as one people. I used to give an assignment when I was a civics teacher in high school. I'd come in on the first day of class and I'd tell the students, all right, here's the assignment. A group of people arrive here on our planet who are technologically superior to us, and they say, we've been studying your planet for years, and we have a protein shortage on our planet, all right? We need 1 million humans a month for food. Little Soylent Green kind of, and a few people go, wait, you can't do that, and they go bzz, 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 and their little tablets already. I mean, they demonstrate that they have the capacity to do this. And they say, we'll be back in 6 months to pick up the first supply of humans for our protein supply. Otherwise, we're not going to bother you. Just 1 million a month. Now, you decide who they're going to be and get them ready for us, all right? Or else we'll come and do it ourselves. And they leave. And the assignment is what happens on Earth while in the next 6 months after they leave. Do you think that we would be concerned about the Russians? Do you think that we would be concerned about petty differences between
I got
us?
you.
In other words, we would all unite as a people with a common kind of threat.
Right.
And the more I thought about that, it's like,
Yeah, but then all of a sudden you got and now maybe this planet is all one, but what?
yeah, that's right.
And the problem gets bigger.
So that's why Icus really symbolizes love. She is a person who comes here and says, I'm not trying to hurt you. I've got love for you, but I can see you from a detached point of view. You know, because she's...
This must be a novel that must have been inside you for a while then, because you said,
yeah.
because you said you presented that problem to your students when you were a teacher, which is, what, several years ago?
A few years about ago. 15, 20 years ago. Yes, I've thought about it all my life, and wanted to create, in all my speeches around, I was always talking about this lady, this planet from Uranus, where it's a duplicate of Earth, but the people there are exactly the same as on Earth, except that they're neurotic because they have to be. And Icus is a lady who gives the anxiety attack report on television, because on Uranus, anxiety attacks. It really attacks, so you have to get ready, and elevators really scare you there, and you need guilt to go back and things like that. And she comes here and visits.
So she comes from that planet to here.
And can't understand why people are, you know, she's knocking on the door saying, where's the complex department in your department store? And she said, what? Well, I heard a woman out there saying her husband gave her a complex. On Uranus, if you want to give your wife a complex, you go and you buy one, you wrap it up, and you hand it to them, you see. And here she can't figure that out. She's a detached, loving observer who comes from another world where people are neurotic by reality. I had a great title for this, by the way. I was going to call this book, the publishers vetoed it, If You Want to Be Happy, Get Your Head Out of Uranus. And I had a great idea for the cover. I had an artist, and it was all set, you know, but it didn't work out that way, so we called it...
That would just sell just to have the book.
She really gives us kind of the secrets of the things that we can all do as a people to find, to get our world straightened and ourselves straightened out, which is what we need to do.
Now, a lot of people have said that this book kind of goes after Jonathan Livingston Seagull in a way.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
That was a wonderful, wonderful parable. I love parables. The books that had more of an impact on me in the last 10 or 15 years, Siddhartha, I don't know if you've ever read Siddhartha by Herman Hesse, written many years ago. Jonathan Livingston Seagull, those kinds of stories. The Little Prince. Do you remember The Little Prince? It's a children's book. Where you can get across a message in a parable. I really believe this will be a parable for our time. It'll be a parable that'll last forever. A kind of story to give a message within it, and it's very challenging. I mean, I've been writing nonfiction, you know, for the last
That's
decade.
a good point. I mean, you've been writing the nonfiction. Suddenly, you're attempting this fiction, a novel. Do you think it's going to change your image to your readers, or do you think you'll have the same readers?
I don't
Same fans?
Yeah. You know something? I never think about those things. Honestly, it's like, you know what? You know who I write for? Me. When I sit down to write, or when I perform, when I talk in front of a group, I have very high standards for myself, and if I can please me, and it's like when I write, I get more joy out of writing than I do out of sex, than I do out of tennis, than I do out of literally anything. It's the most fulfilling thing in my life, writing. And if it pleases me, that's great. If somebody buys it, that's just a big bonus, you know, and if somebody tells me that it changed their life, that's a wonderful bonus. But I'm working at writing and pleasing me, and it's the same thing when I perform. And I think most great performers that I've ever watched, really, they might do 100 concerts in a row, but they always look like they're having a good time. And they are. They're not. When they're faking it, and that's when it becomes a problem. So I do it for me, and if my readers want to read it, terrific. If not one person buys it, I'm still a novelist. They can't take that away.
Well, that's fun to say when you've had a book that sold 22 million copies around the world.
Yeah.
But, you know, what do you ever think of the other side of the coin? What if that book hadn't sold?
I do, because I had written 4 before that hadn't sold. You're looking at...
Which ones were they?
They were all textbooks in psychotherapy and counseling and all that. But it's like, if you want to be successful, and you interview a lot of very successful people on this show, you want to have... You're looking at one of the biggest failures in the world, all right? And virtually everybody who sits in this chair, if they've been very, very successful, has failed a lot, including, I'm sure, yourself. You go out there, you struggle, you drop, you make a mistake, you figure out a way to change it, or if you're neurotic, you say, see, I told you so. The great story of that, it was Thomas Edison when he was trying to invent a storage battery, and he had tried 25,000 combinations, still didn't have one. And someone said to him, at his age, at 70-some years old, they said, how does it feel to have failed 25,000 times, someone as famous as you? He said, fail? I don't know what you're talking about. He said, today, I know 25,000 ways not to make a battery. What do you know?
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, it really is.
Do you have a strong, I mean, do you look at the problems of the world? Of course, in the book, you know, you're talking about your philosophy on the way you'd like to see things be. But do you really worry about it as far as getting everybody together?
I do. I'm more concerned, one of the most important votes ever before the Congress is this nuclear freeze business. We've got so many nuclear weapons stockpiled in this world that if a madman gets his hands on them, and someday a madman will, if they're there, you can be sure that if an Idi Amin had access to them, or a Gaddafi, or a Hitler, or someone like that, that this planet will be blown apart. That concerns me greatly, and I'd like to see that stop. No matter what all the justification for it is, I think that's a very sad state of affair. I'm concerned about half the people in the world starving. You know, half the people in this whole planet are starving. They don't need to be. Those things concern me greatly, but I don't want to get immobilized by it. I want to see what I can do to change it, and I work very actively at that. I spend a big part of my time, my energy, my money in trying to right some of these terrible things that are happening. Yeah.
Let everybody know about it.
Oh, sure.
Well, we wish you the best of success with gifts from ICUS. We're going to take a break. Can you stay with us?
Oh, sure. I'd be happy to.
Claudia Lano from Knott's Landing when we come back. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
See you in a bit.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.